Human life is like a game of dice. The loser who has never had any luck before will be reborn into something new. The guy was grabbed by the neck by a terrible monster. He did not expect to die so early without even waiting for help. But sometimes death is nothing more than a kind of liberation. He understood that he would not survive because he could not even breathe a breath of air. The guy was faced with the choice of choosing the very reward card from 12 randomly selected cards. He hoped that this card would change his life. Otherwise, he would forever remain a loser. Finally, after much deliberation, the young man chose a card. A handsome, white-haired young man appeared in front of him, although this playing card was an inferior one. Even though he had the worst cards, he was sure that he would turn this world upside down, but would he have the courage to challenge the world? Player number 142857, Tyler Young, was 25 years old before entering the game and 18 years old after entering the game. 25-year-old Tyler Young has been in the game for half a year and has even synthesized several top-level cards. But the name in the system is still displayed as a lifelong loser. He has almost come to terms with the fact that this is the reward of losers. But even if he is a loser, even the game tries to console him. Having pressed the move button, he didn't even understand what it meant. He received a message that from now on he was an official player, his unique number was 142875, and now he had to choose a card. Although Tyler already had these cards in his pocket, he calmly wanted to choose a reward. Without hesitation, he poked at the first card he came across, only for the game to finally get behind him. The guy stared puzzledly at the screen of his smartphone. He was blessed with a black card, but for him it was a new level of humor. Suddenly, a bright beam of light shot from the screen, blinding him. Tyler couldn't understand what it was and what was happening right now. The system has made its choice. Now the player goes to a new world and the monster paradise was randomly selected. Only the phone, cracked from falling on the floor, and the bag remained in place. The guy had no doubt that he had moved to another world. He thought that he would begin, without a shadow of fear, to cut everyone left and right and then lick from the tip of the knife the blood of the monsters whose corpses would litter his road. Tyler had a katana in his hand, which he waved above himself without a shadow of fear. Even though the guy has been a player for a week now, he still hasn't woken up the system, and besides, every day he just does housework. He was faced with a task. The heavenly wheel of life had broken. The light of life was slipping away at an incredible speed, 10 times faster than human speed. The remaining period of life was 91 days. The body he received in the game turned out to be a great success. At the Night Academy, he turned out to be the best graduate with excellent grades. He was sorry that the wheel of life had broken. There was a complete deception all around. Then, he went into the room of his sister Tina Young, the only relative in this world. The guy stared in shock at the girl who was changing clothes, who shouted to this dumbass that he had to knock before entering. She had the character of a typical teenager, so a book immediately flew into the young man's face. Sitting down at the dining table, eating rice, Tina frowned and said that she was no longer little, so her brother needed to be more careful. Rubbing her bruised cheek, Tyler asked her not to be angry, but rather to eat. Then the Emperor's ring on his finger shook. This ring was an identity card in this world, literally a personal account with letters, information about a person, and so on. It also has a personal space for storing things and internet access. Tina's ring also reacted, opening the projection, reporting bad news today. At approximately 1630, the Eye of the Abyss was discovered 310 miles southeast of Square 7101. There are suspicions of a monster invasion, so residents of the surrounding areas were asked to be careful and not leave the area, and also close their doors and windows at night. The worried girl was afraid that they might be close to the epicenter. Tyler reassured his sister, telling her not to worry. This was not the latest news, so the monsters could have left long ago. Besides, their area was well guarded, and they definitely couldn't miss this. So to speak, the D-level area is very small, there is not even 10,000 population, and the security level is extremely low. If strong monsters appear and no one goes to eliminate them, then the city will come to an end. Getting up from the table, the girl warned her brother that she was full and would go do her homework. Tyler said that he would clear everything from the table himself, but Tina advised him to rest, watching the news. The guy found out that knights nearby were clearing out monsters. Fortunately, the level of the Eye of the Abyss was not so high, so he and his sister were safe. Killing monsters could give him life, but his body is too weak. The young man didn't want to die by accident, so tomorrow he will go outside the city and kill a couple of monsters left after the invasion. Suddenly, Tina's cry for help was heard, and Tyler immediately jumped up in place, frightened. He rushed to his sister's room, who was praying for her brother to save her. Having kicked the door, The guy saw that the monster was climbing through the window and Tina was sitting nearby, pressed into the closet. The monster slowly made its way into the room with the intention of killing these two. Grabbing his bag for defense, Tyler came to Tina's defense. The monster that was approaching them was a vampire. The vampire is one of the weakest monsters of the Iron rank, but the guy grabbed the girl and ran from there. Locking her in another room, Tyler told her to wait for him here, while he took the monster outside, because vampires love the blood of little girls, so Tina needs to sit quietly, and the guy will do the rest. The girl looked at her older brother with wide eyes from which tears flowed. Tyler couldn't let a vampire harm his sister, because he had no one else in this world. At this time, the monster made its way into the house, destroying everything in its path. Tyler screamed for the bleeding to finish him off if he could. The vampire immediately chased after him. Turning to his pursuer, the guy was surprised at how powerful he was. Tina sat in the room without making a sound. She was very worried about her brother. Tyler grabbed the gun and pointed it at this freak. The guy instantly fired several bullets into the monster's body. But the shots did not cause any harm to the vampire. Tyler was surprised that he could transform. Vampires have a special feature where they can concentrate blood energy around their body to increase their defense and strength. This monster is never from the Iron rank. It is at least bronze, running away from it. The guy realized that he could die this way. The young man had no choice but to jump out the window. The monster followed the guy straight through the window. Tyler had to make him leave here. The vampire immediately attacked the main character. It was dangerous. But the guy had a feeling that something was wrong. Although he transformed, the vampire's strength decreased. While repelling the monster's attacks, Tyler realized that he was seriously wounded, so he attacked weakly. Apparently, this vampire escaped from the knights after a hot battle. The guy needed to bide his time a little. With such wounds, his opponent wouldn't last long. The monster was about to grab Tyler with its clawed paw, but the young man dodged in time. The main thing for him now is to hold out longer. Still, the vampire managed to hit the guy and he flew straight to the ground. Lying on the ground, Tyler could no longer stall for time. For him, it was the end. But still, he couldn't die like that, like a loser. He decided to try to survive again. His bullets began to pierce the protective dome of the monster. The vampire's defense cracked and the bullets reached his chest. With a crash, the arachnid vampire crashed to the ground. Wounded, but still alive, ready to strike back. But regeneration failed him, and the monster took on its usual appearance, holding its wounded shoulder. Now here he became prey for the young man. Approaching close to the monster, the guy was preparing to deliver the decisive blow. With a victorious smile, he fired the last bullet and the vampire died down. He was glad that it was finally over and the monster was dead. Then he received a message on his ring congratulating him on the successful completion of the test. Tyler dealt with the vampire, so he receives a reward. He defeated a second-level monster and receives a level-up card, and ATK can choose the reward himself. Then a small puppy appeared in front of the young man, who said that, in addition to the usual ones, he had the opportunity to choose other cards. Pouting, the dog turned away from the guy, muttering that he was actually his assistant and should be treated with respect. Turning to Tyler and pointing to the cards, the assistant said that in addition to the gold, the guy also had a special card as a reward for killing the monster. The young man saw his data card. He had neither strength nor combat power. In general, a complete loser, still cruel. And the monster's combat power was level 3 bronze. According to the system's assessment, he was a complete weakling. Tyler couldn't understand how to evaluate the significance of cards in this world. The assistant replied that white are common, green are rare, blue are legendary, purple and orange are divine. And the guy only has losers. The main character has an idea that he can draw a card himself, because if you pulled out a monster card, then what is the chance that you can draw a rarer one? The assistant, with irony in his voice, asked the lucky guy how long it had been since he looked in the mirror. With tears, the guy agreed that he was a loser with the worst reputation. Sensing someone approaching, the assistant warned Tyler about it. The clicking of heels was heard and a girl came out to them. The blonde asked the guy if he killed the monster. The girl introduced herself as Anna Daya and said that she had received a call about danger. It said that a vampire had attacked the place. Tyler agreed that his little sister Tina called because they were attacked by a vampire. He was surprised that Anna, the famous silver hunter of the Hunters Association, was a girl. The girl decided to ask a little differently about whether Tyler killed this monster. The guy replied that it was he who killed the monster, but he was partly lucky because the vampire was already rotting. Anna didn't understand how he could kill him if this guy's level didn't even reach iron, and his wheel of life was completely broken. Anna moved closer to Tyler, wondering how he killed the monster, because she still couldn't believe that he was able to finish it off with just luck. Then, the guy remembered his sister, who was in the house. He immediately rushed headlong towards her, telling Anya to wait a little because he needed to make sure his sister was safe, and then they could continue the conversation. Tina stood near the completely destroyed wall of the house. The girl was very upset because they had to pay for this house for another 32 years. A breathless Tyler, standing behind his sister, called out sharply to her. Tina immediately rushed into his arms, crying. She muttered that she was scared to death, thinking that her brother was dead. The guy tried to calm his crying sister as best he could. Anna had more and more questions for Tyler when she saw that the monster had destroyed the floor of the house. Turning to Tina, the girl told her that there was nothing to worry about, but her brother had somehow single-handedly killed a third-level bronze rank vampire. Tina proudly stated that her brother was the best graduate of the hunter school, but Tyler was more interested in finding out what Anna wanted to check. The guy's sister asked the stranger who she was and why she came to their house. The hunter replied that she was a silver hunter and came to the rescue after receiving a call about danger. Tina couldn't believe that she was able to see Anna in person. The girl in turn was scanning the house. Tyler was interested to know what equipment she was using, because apparently it was gold rank. The girl replied that this equipment is not intended for combat, so it is of great value. It can instantly record the surrounding view, save it, and display it in 3D format. Now she is using it to recognize the damage to their house. In this regard, the Hunters Association will pay. They receive appropriate compensation. Tina was shocked by how rich her little sister was, because such equipment needs to be fueled with at least a 1-year-old life crystal, while Tyler thought that ordinary iron rank equipment even needs several life crystals, so the price of gold compared to it is heaven and earth. Proud of herself, Anna replied that she had plenty of such life crystals, and since Tina called her sister, the girl threw her a 3-year-old life crystal as a gift, for which she thanked Anna. The guy realized that apparently the huntress was not so simple. Since the vampire is dead then, probably, there was no point in Anya delving into this issue, but she was still worried about something. Tyler immediately asked her to tell her what exactly she needed to check. The girl kept thinking that fighting a third-level bronze rank vampire would be difficult even for her, and the guy also had a broken life wheel, plus he was not even an iron rank. Anna believed that Tyler had some excellent equipment, so that if he wanted, she could buy it for a high price. The guy replied that the girl had already seen what happened to his house, and today, he saw gold rank equipment for the first time, and it was in Anna's hands. Patting Tyler on the shoulder, the huntress said that in this case she had underestimated the guy. She was sorry that his life wheel was broken. However, if he could somehow restore it, she was sure that the guy would become an excellent hunter. But unfortunately for Tyler, he doesn't have much time left. As she left, the girl said that the calculation of the damage to the house had been completed and that tomorrow morning someone from the organization would come here to repair it, and they would be provided with free housing. Turning around, Anna told the guy not to die, and then maybe they would see each other again. Tina asked her brother where they would sleep tonight, to which Tyler promised to think of something. The girl suggested that we just sleep for now, and tomorrow everything would be fine. As he stroked his instantly asleep sister's head, the guy thought that she was still a child after all, since she fell asleep so quickly. As it turns out, being a responsible brother is not that easy. Unnoticed by Tyler, Lucky appeared next to him, who said that his sister was just a cutie, but his brother was useless. The guy was scared by the appearance of the assistant, to which he reassured the guy, saying that no one else could see him except the main character. From the fact that no one except him could see the assistant, the young man breathed a sigh of relief. But Lucky is right about being too weak to protect his sister, so Tyler wanted to draw another card. Lucky didn't expect the guy to want to do this right now, but Tyler was sure. 12 cards appeared in front of him, one of which would become his reward. Finally choosing one of the cards, Tyler clicked on it. The system congratulated the guy on receiving the mission card. He needs to become a novice hunter. As a reward, he will receive a correction card. But if the guy does not complete the task within the specified period, he will lose the blessing forever. The young man was surprised because he had not previously heard that a blessing can be lost. Realizing the whole situation, he shouted to Lucky that for this he must be at least an iron rank in order to participate in the selection of novice hunters. The assistant warned him that the task had already begun, and all the necessary information was posted on the back of the card. Crying from hopelessness, the guy thought that he would remain a failure for the rest of his life. But, in any case, whatever the purpose of the corrective card, he must complete this task, otherwise the loss of the blessing will be the end for him. In the morning, Tina shouted to her brother that she was running away to school. Tyler shouted after him that the news said that the area closest to them had been cleared of monsters, but still the girl needed to be careful and didn't get lost. and today workers would arrive to renovate the house. As soon as they finished, he would write to his sister. The girl was late for school again, chewing a sandwich on the way. While seeing his sister off, Tyler decided he needed to take care of business. Immediately, the guy called Lucky, who had been licking himself before. Tyler ran to the assistant, grabbing him. Lucky was outraged that the guy interfered with his licking, but the young man had more urgent matters. He was wondering how to finish this task on the mission card. The puppy answered boredly that before talking about participation, you need to go through registration, which Tyler will most likely fail, since the minimum requirement for participation is iron rank. Then fate played a cruel joke on him. Hearing this, the guy angrily warned that they would probably have dog stew for lunch today. Lucky didn't like this idea very much, so he more gently said that the guy needs to figure out a way to bypass registration. Otherwise, he simply won't be allowed in. It was obvious to Tyler that it was impossible to achieve iron rank in such a short time, but he still needed to participate in the novice hunter exam. But since he received a level-up card, he can disguise himself as a tamer to take part in the selection process. Lucky thought this idea was a good idea because tamers are very rare at this time, so they are highly valued. So this idea is really good. Tyler felt that a third-level bronze rank vampire should be more than enough to pass the novice hunter exam. But his weakness is too obvious. If someone uses a weapon smeared with poison, which causes the vampire's body to actively decompose, then he will be in very disadvantage during the battle. Lucky realized that the guy was planning to use the level-up card. The main character realized that using a level-up card on an iron rank monster was wasteful, but completing the quest was more important now. But he didn't know how to summon the monster, to which Lucky replied that you just need to present the summon card and it will appear, and then crush it, and then you can summon him. Tyler clarified whether others see the cards or not. Lucky replied that only the guy, the monster himself, and the assistant can see the cards. The rest are not able to see them, which means that Tyler does not have to worry about his ability being revealed. He took the vampire card in his hand, about to activate it, and then he crushed it, and a young dark-haired guy appeared behind him. Tyler was surprised that a vampire could look so incredible. Lucky said that the main character can choose one of the summoner skills right now if he wants. Tyler was ready to use the card right now. The assistant warned that the level-up card can only be used once, but it is not advisable to use it on a vampire. But since the guy was ready for this, Lucky had no choice but to raise the level of the vampire to advanced. But still, he felt sorry for using this card on some vampire. The transformation was so bright that Tyler closed his eyes. When the process was completed, a handsome white-haired man appeared in front of them. With such a shock of silver hair, Tyler was ready to call him Kaneki, because this name would suit him perfectly. But this violates copyright, so the guy decided to call him Bai. The main character transformed the handsome guy back into a card. Only now, Bai turned out to be the third level of the iron rank. Tyler asked Lucky why the vampire's rank had dropped. The assistant replied that the vampire was originally a third-level bronze rank, but due to the fact that the guy is weak, the combat power he can use corresponds to only the third level of the iron rank. But it's rare to see a master lower the rank of a summoned monster because of his inexperience. Tyler warned Lucky that if he was so rude, he would never make friends. The assistant replied that he didn't need them. Then they knocked loudly on the door and asked to open it. Opening the front door, Tyler was stunned to see two thugs who looked like debt collectors. Fearing the menacing appearance of these people, the guy thought that they were members of the mafia, murderers, or vampires who decided to take revenge. Having learned the boy's name, the thug immediately became kind and sweet, saying that they had received an order for restoration and had come to repair the house. Tyler immediately exhaled with relief. Another person warned that if the guy has any wishes, he can warn them and they will do everything possible. The repairs will be completed in 5 days, at which time a temporary place of residence has already been prepared for them. Taking the pass from the agent's hands, Tyler was surprised that they would be staying in an upscale famous hotel. The association provides huge subsidies to those affected by the monster attack. Approaching the hotel, Tina said that it was located next to her school. And besides, she had always dreamed of visiting inside, but Tyler could not imagine that they would ever be able to visit such a luxurious place. The doorman warmly greeted the guests, inviting them inside. The guy invited his sister to eat first and then relax in their room. Going inside, Tina said that she was no longer hungry. Tyler warned his sister that food and room were provided for free. The girl was furious that her brother began to eat without her. Tina began to gobble up food on both cheeks, although a few minutes ago she was not hungry. The guy was a little alarmed that everything around him had become so quiet, and people look very scared about something. And all because a really scary man came into the restaurant. Tina pointed her finger at him. but Tyler swore at her not to point her finger at him or even look at him. The guy noticed that the man was staring painfully at the two of them. Stretching, Tina announced that she was finally full. Since she was full, Tyler grabbed her hand and dragged her into their room without even trying dessert, which made the girl unhappy. But the aura around this man did not give the main character peace. If he cannot defeat him, then the best thing is to hide quickly. The big man stood up after them, not even finishing his food. Tina said that their room should be in front. She was delighted by the fluffy carpet, on which you walk like on clouds. But Tyler did not pay attention to her, caring only about the muzzle that was pursuing them. Even if he loses, he needs to protect his sister in any way. While the guy was thinking about this, they came to the right room. Turning sharply to the man, Tyler asked why he was following them. The thug replied that his room was opposite theirs. The guy sheepishly apologized to him. Entering the room, Tina began to examine it. She was shocked by how big it was. Besides, there were 2 more rooms. Tyler could not fully enjoy their temporary residence because he could not take a breath from fear. Plopping down on the sofa, the girl said that there were too many people in this hotel, and even if it was bad, he still couldn't do anything to them. The guy agreed with his sister, but apparently he behaved this way because he was tired, so he warned the girl to take a shower, do her homework, and go to bed. But Tina did not agree with this schedule. It's still not always given the opportunity to live in such a luxurious place. It was already past 12 at night when the girl finally fell asleep, looking into her sister's room. The guy smiled and thought that too much had happened in these 2 days. You can find a lot of information on the internet involving their benefactor from the elite hunters. Tyler hoped that he could glean something useful from viewing it. Watching the video, the guy realized that Anna is skilled. As expected, she is very strong. It's not for nothing that she is called a genius among the silver hunters. Then Tyler noticed a sound coming from the next room. It's midnight, and this guy decided to take a walk. Tyler realized that he was definitely not mistaken. It was the thug who was now heading somewhere. But what is he even going to do at this time? Having moved a decent distance away, the man took out his sword and began to train. Watching him from the window, Tyler noticed that his skills were very good, which is exactly what he lacks right now. There are 18 sword styles in total. If the guy continues to watch, he will definitely be able to remember his movements. Still, staying at this hotel was worth it. Early in the morning, a bird knocked on the window and brought a package. These birds are called birds of 1,000 words. These are low-ranking monsters capable of speaking human language, and they specialize in delivering various items since they have storage in subspace. Looking out of the bathroom, Tina wondered what her brother had ordered. Tyler warned his sister that she should hurry up and get dressed, otherwise she would be late for school again. Tina did not calm down, questioning her brother about what exactly he ordered. The guy replied that he was preparing for the hunter exam, and the girl needed to go get ready instead of staring. This equipment cost almost all of the guy's savings, but he hoped that it would be useful. The set included armor-piercing bullets. Although there are only 10 of them, they will be very useful in the future. Having unpacked all the items, Tyler decided to move on to the most important thing. He took out a black steel combat longsword, the best he could afford. He remembered well the 18th style of that thug, so he decided to try it in action. Immediately he lunged, turned and struck, jerked and cut. A notification came from the system, congratulating Tyler on receiving the first fragment of the Great Devastation skill. Turning to Lucky, Perrin asked what he should do with this. The assistant replied that everything was very simple. He needed to collect all the fragments in order to transform them into one complete skill. In anticipation, Tyler said that it was easy. He just needed to swing the sword to get the skill, but it turns out it's not that simple. Lucky explained that his success is a maximum of 80% of the accuracy of the original, and the guy can get a fragment if he repeats the technique perfectly. Only after achieving 100% accuracy can he continue to receive fragments of the skill. The main character did not think that he needed to swing a sword exactly like the man with the scar. The assistant replied that acquiring skills is not so easy. Inflamed with the desire to succeed, Tyler intended to continue training and get all the fragments. Lucky only wished him good luck and went on to sleep. 9 hours later, the guy was lying on the floor from fatigue. He was able to collect only 20% of the fragments, but he did not have the strength to continue training. The voice of Tina, who had returned from school, was heard from behind the door. The girl entered the room with the man, introducing him as the founder of the hotel, Mr. Briand. He said that he wanted to say hello to Tyler, but Tina was wondering why her brother was sleeping on the floor. Then the man warmly greeted the guy. He was glad that they were staying in his hotel, but Briand has been too busy lately. That's why he greets guests so lamely. The young man didn't see anything wrong with that, so he invited the gentleman inside. Handing over the soothing tea he had prepared especially for the guest, the man called the guy very hardworking. Tyler thanked him and said that this hotel looks just wonderful and the service here is excellent. Mr. Briand sheepishly replied that if the client is satisfied, then it is an honor for him. And as he was about to leave, he said that Tyler could call him at any time if they needed anything. Tina noticed that being the founder of this hotel, the gentleman is very modest and kind. Tyler appreciated his excellent tea. The girl almost forgot to give her brother a reward from the Hunters Association for killing the monster. Tyler had killed a bronze-rank vampire and was wondering what kind of reward they had decided to give him. He was surprised that the suitcase could be opened only with a fingerprint. Excitedly, Tyler took out the Dark Eagle 33. This is a new dark steel mechanical weapon from the Desert Eagle Company. It not only has a pistol mode, but also a sniper rifle mode. This is currently the best mechanical dark steel weapon on the market, and most likely costs more than most bronze-rank equipment. Watching her brother's excitement, Tina noticed that the Hunter Association is very generous. Only now, Tyler remembered that activating such a weapon requires a lot of energy, so he can only use it after reaching the iron rank. He needs to hurry up and collect all the fragments of the Great Devastation skill. Tina did not expect that her brother would decide to take part in the Hunter exam. She knew that Tyler was strong, but she was still very worried. Tyler asked his little sister not to worry. He would keep his word and not leave her. The girl willingly believed him. Then the guy shouted for Tina to stop sitting in her pants and go do her homework. When the girl left, Tyler decided to continue training because after the master's tea, he had a good rest. The guy not only became calm, but his concentration also increased. He believed that this was because his skill was also growing. Time after time, the young man received new fragments of the skill. He had this strange feeling, as if he couldn't stop training. In the morning, Tina was shocked that her brother had not slept all night. But the chance of obtaining fragments was becoming greater, so he must continue. The guy continued to train without even noticing how his little sister went to school. Finally, the system congratulated him for obtaining 300 fragments of the Greater Devastation skill. Now Tyler can transform them into the rare Greater Devastation skill. The guy really wanted to gain this skill, so without hesitation he agreed to convert the fragments. The main character only received the first part of the Great Devastation skill. This card turned out to be rare, and the skill rank is gold. This skill is classified as a special skill, so it has no level restrictions. The difficulty will change according to the user's strength. Lucky, who appeared out of nowhere, explained that this skill has two parts, and if you combine them, you will get an epic rank card. But the second part was lost long ago, and even he does not know its location. Tyler hoped that the guy with the scar wouldn't be angry when he found out that he copied his skill. Although it looked like he was demonstrating his technique on purpose, in any case, the guy wanted to thank him, and at the same time learn about the second part of the skill. Immediately, the main character went to his number and pressed the call. Opening the door slightly, the man asked what he wanted. Bowing low, the guy thanked him for teaching him sword skills for 3 whole days. The man replied that he didn't teach him. If Tyler himself was attentive and diligent, then he learned on his own, but the extent to which he understood everything is his problem. But even if so, the guy was still grateful to him. But before he could finish speaking, the thug closed the door in front of his very nose. Tyler decided to ask about the second part after the exam. When Tina returned from school, the guy told her that they had to return home tomorrow because he had received a letter at night. The girl was upset. She was so used to luxurious housing that she did not want to return home. Tyler promised her that in the future they would live in a house much better than this, the girl agreed. But she was still happy that she could be with her brother. The guy advised her to go to bed early because they had a hard day ahead of them tomorrow. At this time, the thug didn't understand what the master saw in that guy. He was just lucky to kill the vampire. He was at a lower stage, and his wheel of life was completely broken. At best, he had 2 months left. Turning to young Evans, Mr. Briand asked him a question about whether he had ever made a mistake about people. Yang replied that the master, of course, was not mistaken. But his personality is special, and he cannot interfere in the affairs of this world. And that is probably why the master ordered him to train this boy. Briand knew the limits of his powers, but Young also communicated with this guy, and he was interested in what Evans thought about him. The man replied that he was talented, but compared to Anna, he could not be called a genius. In this case, Briand decided to check with Young how long it took him to master the first part of the Great Devastation. The man replied that this skill may look simple, but there is a huge ocean of Blade Dao essence in it. He practiced 18 hours a day for 103 days to fully master it. Briand said it took him 103 days for the Blade Genius to learn the first part of the skill. But as long as that guy needed, Young guessed it would take him 2 to 3 years. The gentleman showed 3 fingers without a word. Yang thought that the gentleman meant more than 3 years. But Brian replied that Tyler had already learned this skill in just 3 days. The man couldn't believe it, but the gentleman said that nothing is impossible, and now they need to get ready and go. Young meekly agreed with his master and followed. The next day, Tyler and Tina left the hotel and headed to their renovated home. But when they were already there, they could not hide the surprise on their faces. Their house was completely rebuilt, which made them think they had the house number mixed up. But, as it turned out, they definitely didn't have the wrong number because one of the association's people met them at the door. Turning to the man, Tyler said that the house was slightly damaged and only needed to repair the wall, and they built a new one. The man smiled radiantly and replied that these guys were friends of Mrs. Anna, so they gave it their all. Tina at first didn't understand who he was talking about, but then she realized that he was talking about his sister Anya. The man agreed with her. The lady helped them a little with the order for restoration. And when the authorities saw him, they demanded that everything be done as it should, and all because her father is one of the 3 vice leaders of the 7th District branch of the association, and her mother is 7th District representative of the Federation. As he left, the man wished them a great day and hoped that they would meet again. But Tyler did not share his joy because he did not want the monsters to destroy his house again. But Tina noticed that they decided to please because they thought that Tyler, Anna's friend. Entering the house, Tina began to enthusiastically examine the house, and the guy decided to focus on more important things, since the house was renovated. And all because in 3 days the exam for a novice hunter will begin. 3 days later, the guy was already flying on a griffin, a low-ranking monster that specializes in transporting people between regions. Tyler even found the flight very exciting. In just 2 hours, he reached Code Area 7C87. The speed of the griffins truly deserves its reputation. Big cities are so different, there are so many people, that Tyler didn't know where to go first. Before leaving, the guy handed over all his savings to Tina. This should have been enough for her while he was gone. Then some guy called out to him with the intention of going to the exam together. Having hugged Tyler, the guy introduced himself as Kevin Joy. He did not expect that there would be a daredevil who would decide to take the exam even without reaching the iron rank. The main character introduced himself in response, but he still felt uneasy from his excessive talkativeness. Having reached the branch of the Hunters Association, Kevin said that this stronghold is considered average. Ordinary people leave missions here, and hunters later pick them up. If they follow the crowd now, they will definitely come to the right place. Tyler noticed that his new friend knew a lot about the association, to which Kevin replied that he always dreamed of being a hunter, so he studied everything related to this craft. Before leaving for the Citadel, they were met by a pretty girl who said that the briefing would begin soon, so she should take them inside. Entering the room, the guys were surprised that there were so many people here and they all came for the exam. Tyler asked Kevin what this briefing was for, and he replied that before the exam, the professionals would tell them how it would go. A girl immediately came out to the examinees and shouted for everyone to cover their bread slicers. She introduced herself as Frida Kern and said that she would be their examiner. From that moment on, the entrance to the hall would be closed, and those who were late would be disqualified. As Kevin expected, it was the demoness Frida. To begin with, the girl decided to tell the rules. If someone speaks in parallel with her, they will only have to blame themselves for the consequences. This time, the exam will be held 330 kilometers from Citadel 7C87. The area is the Golden Flame Desert. They will need to cross the desert in 15 days and get to Citadel 7D121, which is 1,500 kilometers from the landing site. The girl added that it is forbidden to bring any water or food. They can only be obtained in the desert itself. Kevin noticed that Tyler was not writing down the location of the water sources, but the location of the monsters. The guy replied that he was afraid of dying ahead of time, so he would simply avoid them. Pointing to the map, Frida showed a safe path, but the children will have to independently overcome the snowy mountain, which is called the Ridge of the Goddess. They can use any tools, but if at the end of the exam they do not reach the Citadel, they will be disqualified. The examinees did not think that they would have to climb the mountain with their bare hands, but Kevin looked with all his eyes at the relic of the demoness, and since Tyler did not know what it was, Kevin explained that the relic is an extremely rare item of gold rank and above, and the only way they can be obtained by killing a monster of superior rank or higher. Before the start of the exam, Frida warned that now her assistants will check everyone's equipment. It is not allowed to take equipment above the iron rank with them. Poisons and other illegal items are also prohibited. Everyone has a button to call for help. After using it, a rescue group will come for the person, and he himself will be disqualified. When Tyler was being tested, Frida abruptly stopped him. The guy thought that she wanted to cancel his participation due to the fact that he had not reached the iron rank. But the girl just looked at the guy and grinned. But she immediately told him to move on. The main character realized that he was laughing at him, because he would not last long. But her spatial relic was truly amazing to him. And not only for him, Kevin was delighted with her relic, because they are rare and much more valuable than weapons of the same rank. Frida reported that they checked all their things and functions according to the type of Empire ring that gives access to the network. Any types of communication, as well as navigation and other maps will be disabled. Only inventory will be available. Other participants were depressed because if even the cards were not available, then they would all be finished, and this year's pass rate would likely be the lowest ever. Frida officially announced that the Novice Hunter exam had begun. The participants jostled and rushed forward to take over the water areas. Kevin said goodbye to Tyler and went ahead to explore the area. The main character had no choice but to trail behind, because his strength did not allow him to go faster. At his speed per day, he can cover 40 kilometers, but he only has 15 days, which means his limit is halfway. One of the assistant examiners said that this guy was not even an iron rank, but he still decided to take the exam. And besides, his ability was below average. Frida could bet that out of 15 days, he would last only 3 days. Lucky kept complaining that Tyler wouldn't be able to cover 1,500 kilometers in a year. The guy understood that he was not like the other participants. If he could run like them, then he would only need half a day. Lucky said that if you subtract 2 days for climbing the mountain, then the main character needs to walk about 100 kilometers in a day. And therefore, Tyler cannot rely only on himself, but the assistant cannot help him in any way, because the system only has an auxiliary function. The guy said that he just needed information, and he could handle the rest alone. So he asked Lucky to give him information about the sand mountains of the Shatu tribe. The system reported that sand ogres of the iron rank live in groups. They have low intelligence but high attack power. Lucky realized that Tyler wanted to leave the safe path to find them. The guy wanted to collect fragments to transform them into a summon card, and he will use an ogre as a mount. The assistant did not like this idea, because the main character cannot cope with an entire tribe. But Tyler didn't say that he would attack the ogres alone. By nightfall, the main character finally found the sand ogre's camp. One of the monsters was sleeping quietly in his tent, not even suspecting an imminent attack. But then a small stone flew into his forehead, from which the ogre immediately woke up. Tyler stood nearby, waving at him. The ogre, approaching, immediately struck with his club, but the guy instantly dodged, covering his nose from the terrible stench. While running away from the monster, the main character shouted to him that if he wants to feast on a fresh little human, he must follow him. Having caught up with the guy, the ogre was about to deal him another blow with his club. But before he could do this, both heads were cut off. All this time, Bai, whom Tyler was counting on, was waiting for the monster. The main character thought that Bai was super strong. Lucky said that for a vampire of the 3rd iron rank with the fighting ability of a copper rank, a monster of the 1st iron rank would be 1 tooth short. Since Bai is so strong, Tyler suggested not to risk his life by luring the monsters one by one, but to rush in and kill them all. Then the main character received a system notification about receiving prana. Tyler didn't understand what was happening, but his life wheel suddenly lit up. Lucky forgot to warn that the monster summoned by Tyler will help him restore the wheel of life. When one monster kills another, it receives his life force. Half is transferred to the main character, and since Bai's wheel of life is full, then all the prana is transferred to the owner. Tyler was delighted that his wheel used to have 3 sections, but now it has 28. Now not only will he not be slowly dying, but he also has a chance to break through to the iron rank. With his sword at the ready, the young man called Bai to hunt the ogres. The two of them immediately began killing the monsters one by one, Bai with his bare hands, and Tyler with the help of Great Devastation. With each ogre killed, the main character received system notifications about receiving fragments of Sand Ogres cards. Lucky warned that in order to break through to the iron rank, 152 sections of the life wheel must be filled with prana. The white sections are already filled, only the gray ones remain. If Tyler uses additional life force, he will be able to activate and fill them too. The guy thought that to activate one gray section, he would need as much prana as needed for 10 years of life, or 9 white sections. In the past, he would not have thought about this, but now he had a real chance. While dealing with the monsters, Tyler shouted to Bai to kill them all. Suddenly, a loud, angry roar was heard from somewhere. which immediately attracted everyone's attention. Tyler didn't know that anyone else was still alive, but Lucky said that the guy seemed to be in big trouble. The exam participants, who had set up camp nearby, also heard this roar. They realized that he belonged to a sand ogre from the Shatu tribe, but he screamed as if he had gone into berserker mode. Although he was only copper rank, one of the guys assumed that the only ones who would dare attack them were giant saber-toothed wolves. So there will probably be a bloodbath today. Then someone's huge paw burst out of the ground. Tyler froze in place from shock, all because the height of this monster was at least 10 meters. Lucky only wished him good luck, since the guy himself had aroused the wrath of this big guy by killing so many ogres. Or rather, he aroused the wrath of the copper-ranked head of the Shatu tribe. Bai and Tyler immediately began attacking the ogre from different directions. The main character realized that the skin of this monster was too thick. He also has too much health and bad strength. If things continue like this, the main character will definitely die. Therefore, you need to attack his weak points. This is the only way he can win. Approaching the monster from the front, Tyler ordered Bai to attack it from behind. The guy fired bullets at the ogre, but he fought them off with one hand. Bai maneuvered next to the monster with great speed, striking him and at the same time dodging him. Tyler shouted at the vampire to finish off the ogre, but ignoring Bai, the ogre rushed towards the guy. The main character did not think that the monster would try to attack him, but the ogre had no chance, because he himself fell into the guy's trap. When the monster approached its maximum distance, Tyler fired several bullets at it. These were iron-grade explosive rounds, so they hit the target instantly. Lucky, who suddenly appeared out of nowhere, rejoiced with joy. The young man was outraged that the assistant had first run away with his tail between his legs, and now suddenly became bolder. Lucky promised that since he couldn't help, he would try not to be a burden. Then Tyler received a system notification about receiving a rare monster card, Sand Ogre X1. Since the guy killed someone who was higher in rank than him, his promotion card will be cancelled. The main character was surprised that he, a loser, was given a whole map. Lucky was sorry that it wasn't Bai who killed the monster, so he could have gotten a lot of prana. Looking at the card, Tyler was not surprised that Bai could not kill this ogre. Not only do they have the same rarity, but the ogre also has a cool passive skill that increases stats. Last time the guy absorbed Bai's Art of Blood skill, now he wants to choose Giant Endurance. Lucky considered this a good choice, and how else is Tyler going to run away from everyone like the last coward? After the extermination of the Shatu tribe, the main character received enough map fragments. Now he has 3 monsters to summon, and he also received a new skill, Endurance of an Initial Rank Giant. With a dissatisfied face, the assistant said that no matter how many cards Tyler collects, more than one monster will still not be able to be summoned, and in general, this should be discussed when the guy becomes stronger. The young man praised Bai for his good work and then sent him to rest. Immediately summoning the ogre, Tyler was delighted with his huge and strong appearance and therefore called him Tyrant, although Lucky considered this name to be crap. Now the guy had a 3-star Iron Rank Shatu Tyrant. Lucky knew that Tyler was going to follow his plan and use the ogre to cross the desert. But the young man thought that using a rare map for a ride was a waste, so he had another idea. Having brought Tyrant back, the guy said that it was not in vain that he and Bai had slaughtered the entire Shatu tribe before. Therefore, an ordinary ogre will also do, and Tyrant and Bai will be his trump cards for the right moment. As Lucky expected, this coward again comes up with cunning plans. The assistant warned that if the main character has monster cards of the same type, then a rarer card can absorb the one that is worse and improve a random skill. The guy suggested that he could give this monster to the Tyrant to be devoured and improve one of the skills a year, to which Lucky gave a positive response. But Tyler didn't want to rush. He still needed to catch up with the others. So for now, he would use him for protection and hunting. And after completing the exam, he would feed him to the Tyrant. Lucky didn't even imagine that he would think things through that far. Without this ogre, Tyler would definitely not have been able to get this far. But then the monster caught his foot in a chain stretched low from the ground, and the guy immediately flew off the ogre. He realized that he was attacked, but he did not know who dared to do it. Then a voice was heard that thought that the guy was not afraid of death, since he expressed himself so rudely. In front of him stood 3 guys who knew who Tyler was, and that he had not even reached the Iron Rank, but decided to take the Hunter exam. This is not the first time the main character has seen this impudent guy, and he already thought that it was some kind of monster. The blonde was furious that he was called a monster. But then the second guy entered the dialogue, who introduced himself as Riley Wallace and his cousin as Subaru Lewis. He apologized for the fact that Tyler fell into their trap and also asked not to worry because that they have no evil intentions. This kid is a leader, and he speaks beautifully with his teeth. But the main character sees right through them. Riley said with a smile that the difficulty of this exam was serious, and although Tyler's monster is strong, he himself is very weak. Besides, this ogre will not be able to climb the mountain. So he invited the guy to unite and reach the mountain together, and there they will give him help. The main character thanked them for the invitation, but he is more used to being alone because he does not like to work in a team. Riley asked him to think it over carefully, but Tyler had already seen his true colors. Losing patience, Subaru shouted that they didn't care about him. If they didn't need the monster to move quickly, then no one would even pay attention to the guy. Besides, Tyler, even though he's a tamer, won't just get away with Han's insult to the noble Wallace family. The young man realized that they were not going to retreat so easily. Such families have gold-rank hunters, so the Federation recognizes them as a noble family. So it is not surprising that this boy is so arrogant. Riley said they weren't forcing him, but the way Tyler treated them was a little annoying, so he'd have to teach him a lesson. Subaru shouted that freaks like Tyler need to get it into their heads how to behave correctly. Immediately, the whole group attacked the ogre, but he suddenly disappeared in front of their noses. Without wasting time, they decided to kill the tamer first. With a poisonous grin, Tyler asked if they were strong enough for this, and he immediately covered him with bile. The vampire immediately attacked Subaru, causing him to fly back. Seeing that Subaru was injured, the others rushed to his aid. The main character immediately canceled the call of bye, and the next second he already called the tyrant. The attackers couldn't believe that this guy had 3 monsters. The tyrant immediately scattered all the people to the sides. Subaru, moving somehow, called Tyler scum and shouted that he didn't dare do that. Riley couldn't comprehend that a person who hadn't reached Iron Rank could summon 3 monsters. Looking at the guys intimidatingly, Tyler reminded them that they wanted to teach him a lesson, but now they suddenly didn't want to. Holding back the tyrant's blows with a shield, Riley invited the main character to calm down and talk. His shield was already full of cracks, and in order to easily damage an Iron Rank weapon, this monster must have a Copper Rank. Tyler stopped the ogre from attacking further, telling him to listen to what they had to say. Riley apologized to the guy for such a mistake, but Subaru shouted to him that there is no point in being afraid of Tyler. If he kills them, he will be suspended from the exam. He will be blacklisted, and he will never be able to take the exam again, and killing a member of a noble family is serious crime in the Federation. Turning to his brother, Riley shouted at him to shut his mouth. Coming closer to Tyler, he said that the Wallace family recognizes strong people, so he is ready to make everyone apologize to him, compensate for losses, and become a friend of the main character, and also, he will be able to take any piece of equipment from his inventory. But the young man replied that he doesn't need Riley's compensation. He just needs all the items from Subaru's inventory to cover the moral damage caused by his arrogance. Subaru shouted that a tamer is useless without his monster, so Tyler needs to stop looking down on them. Protecting the owner, the tyrant was ready to attack his opponents at any second. Pulling out his pistol, the main character said that he himself was able to fight back Subaru. A bullet was immediately fired into the guy's shoulder, but she passed tangentially, hitting only clothes and the top layer of skin. But still trembling with fear, Subaru asked Riley for help, but his brother only turned away from him. Coming close to the guy lying on the ground, Tyler said that he would give him 3 seconds to say the last words in this life. Lying under the gun pointed at him, Subaru still believed that he would not dare to kill him, otherwise he would be in big trouble. Tyler said he doesn't care if he loses his qualifications to become a hunter. Although he doesn't even have an Iron Rank, he is capable of summoning very strong monsters, especially since he has 3 of them. Even if Tyler does not become a hunter, any other organization will hire him. Moreover, the association will not let him go so easily. Even if he kills not only Subaru, but also the young gentleman, he will still have a chance to leave without anyone knowing anything. Realizing the deplorability of the situation, Subaru began to beg for mercy. I don't react to the guy's words. Tyler was about to pull the trigger. Then Riley shouted that the main character can ask for whatever he wants, but let him spare his brother, and the young master will do everything possible to please him. Kneeling down, Subaru said that he has 4 pieces of iron equipment. He is ready to give everything and the things in his inventory. Tyler can take whatever he wants. The main character just wanted to pull the trigger, but this time he felt that it was worth treating the young gentleman with respect. In fact, killing Subaru would lead to a lot of problems, but these nobles are too annoying. But now the Wallace family will not touch him and will even be in debt. Then the figure of a man slowly approached them, asking for help. This shape looked too familiar to Tyler. Kevin didn't expect that the main character was a tamer. If it weren't for him, he would have already been buried under this sand. Tyler thought that Kevin went with the leading group, so he didn't understand how he could go astray. Kevin said that when they were setting up a tent and preparing to spend the night, they were attacked by ogres, and because of this, everyone fled in all directions. The guy was grateful to Tyler for his salvation. Now he became his benefactor. Handing the main character a piece of meat, Kevin explained that it was an armored boar that his team had caught. Tyler didn't even know that he could cook. With sparkling eyes, Kevin said his life's goal was to become a gourmet hunter. He wants to travel around the world in search of the best ingredients to create the most delicious dish. Kevin began to tell us that the meat of the armored boar is fatty and juicy, and will become even tastier if you cook it on the grill. The meat of the saber-toothed wolves is also simply amazing. In different areas there are different monsters, for which there are different cooking methods. Tyler thought that Kevin was a good person. He was good at cooking. It would be useful to keep him around, but he was very noisy. Kevin lost his tent, and Tyler's tent was with him, so he wanted to sleep together, as they say in cramped conditions, but no offense. Poking his head out of the tent, the main character said that he was used to sleeping alone, so he would not be able to sleep if they were alone in the tent. As he lay down by the fire, Kevin muttered pitifully that he was simply too fat, so Tyler found it unpleasant to be around him. The main character looked at the tyrant and decided, just in case, to leave him to guard them. Late at night, Kevin slept carefree on the sand next to the extinguished fire. Tyler was also sleeping peacefully, lost in his dreams. But then he suddenly opened his eyes, sensing something was wrong. Through the tent, he saw that the tyrant was standing in combat gear. Having jumped out of the tent, the guy could not understand what had happened and where the danger was. But immediately his face became covered with sweat. For them, everything was very, very bad. He began to lift the sleeping Kevin, who, in his sleep, thought that it was already morning and time to eat. Tyler screamed to get up quickly because they needed to get out of there immediately. Kevin didn't understand why they should run, because the tyrant is very strong and will be able to protect them if anything happens. Tyler told him to look into the sky, where a flock of yin crows were rushing straight towards them, because of which they would definitely die. Climbing onto the tyrant, they rushed away from the crows, Kevin shouting at the top of his voice that it was too early for him to die. Tyler yelled at him to stop yelling like that. He was only attracting attention. Yin crows belong to the family of ghosts and do not have a physical body. They can pass through objects, which means they have nowhere to hide. The main character saw the news about how an entire squad of hunters was killed by them. The corpses did not have any damage, but their souls were sucked out, so they looked like mummies. Kevin said that even gold-ranked hunters prefer to avoid the flocks of these crows. Then Kevin fell off the ogre and flew to the ground, but the tyrant immediately grabbed him with his hand, preventing him from falling. Tyler thought that sooner or later they would be caught up. The only chance to survive was to request help by pressing a button, but then they would be disqualified, and if he did not pass the exam, he would lose his system, which means he would lose everything, so he could not give up so easily, even if he dies. But are there any ways to survive a yin crow attack at all? Not even a day had passed before many immediately gave up. Frida believed that today's students are so weak, if any talents do not emerge among them, then everyone will laugh at her. Then she received a system alert. The girl was annoyed that she was not allowed to rest even at night. She was taken aback by how fast he was moving. Even a copper rank would not be able to move that fast in the desert. Teleporting to the desert, Frida thought that this idiot had been eaten by one of the monsters, and the signal was coming from there. But then an ogre approached the girl, from whose shoulder Tyler shouted for the lady examiner to get them out of there. Tyler swooped down on the girl and pushed her back towards the portal. The guy completely forgot about the tyrant, who could not fit through the small door. So he immediately called the monster back. Frida demanded the guy who was sitting on top of her to get off of her. Later, Tyler explained the whole situation, that they were being chased by a flock of yin crows for half an hour. If not for this, he would not have sent the request. Frida said that such speed was abnormal for a 3-star ogre, so she asked the guy if he had mutated. Tyler thought that Tyrant was a naturally mutated monster when he received his card. It was already rare, since the examiner understood everything. Then, there was no point in hiding it. Frida said that she would inform the authorities about the crows, so by morning they would have finished dealing with them. Now Tyler can only hope that he will not be disqualified, and he will be able to complete the mission as soon as possible. After all, the yin crows are a serious reason. Otherwise, he will lose his system and the Wheel of Life will return to its original form, which means inevitable death. Frida said that after the crows were dealt with, she would send them back to continue the exam. The guy only agreed with her. Tyler began to make excuses that he didn't actually use the button. The communicator was broken from the very beginning, and he had nothing to do with it. The girl thought the guy was smart and told him to take this pig with him and find a place to stay for the night. When the situation with the yin crows was resolved, they would continue the exam. Lost in his thoughts, the guy did not immediately realize that they would not be disqualified. Frida asked if he wanted them to be disqualified. Tyler immediately left, wishing the girl a great day and saying that he would not bother her again. The girl continued to sit in place like a statue, but she immediately squealed with happiness. Because she had found a tamer with a mutated monster, now no one would dare to say that she chose weak newcomers. Tyler was shocked that such a huge flock of yin crows disappeared in just a minute. Frida said that the people they sent are veterans and they are much stronger than he thinks. And now the guy needs to think about how to pass the exam and move to the iron rank. The girl warned that if Tyler sent her a signal for help again, he would pay for all her hotel bills. The guy thought that this was another way to punish him, instead of taking away the right to qualify. Quietly putting his arm around Tyler's shoulders, Kevin asked what they were doing while he was sleeping. The main character shouted to shut up, otherwise he would continue on his own 2 feet. Tyler reported that last night, while Tyrant was running away from the crows, they moved from south to north for half an hour, and now they are not far from the northern rest area, about 60 kilometers from their camp. They missed the whole night, so they need to speed up as much as possible. Moving on the orc's shoulder, Kevin complained that he felt like he was being baked alive. Tyler said that if he remembered correctly, there should be a supply point nearby. The pockmarks were quickly approaching the supply point on the monster's shoulders. Kevin offered to go there and take a break, but the main character said that they needed to be careful. There might be other participants there, and for them, they were the same enemies as monsters. Entering the room, Tyler did not see anyone nearby, so they could rest here for a while. Kevin immediately saw his favorite brand of chips and decided to grab some for the road. But the main character told him to take only the essentials because they had to follow the rules. But then Tyler noticed that someone had already been here before them. Kevin replied that this point is the only one in the entire area, so it is not surprising that they are not the first here. But for Tyler, it was very strange. All these things were not valuable, but they were necessary. They would not just leave them, so there was only one option. Something forced them to leave this place. Kevin asked them not to scare him like that, because there were no signs of a bat or threat nearby. The tyrant began to growl sharply, warning of approaching danger. Turning around, Tyler shouted that they needed to get out of there quickly. Sitting on the ogre, the guys saw a monster rapidly catching up with them underground. As Tyler thought, there was still danger, and now it is chasing them. The guy shouted to Tyrant to be careful because this thing was very fast. Org turned around sharply so that the guys almost fell off him, and with all his strength he hit the ground with his fist, from which a huge worm appeared. The guys were frozen in shock because the end would definitely come to them soon. Because this is a hellworm, a demonic monster that even the tyrant cannot cope with. But it is strange that he was on a safe path. Tyler immediately shot at the monster, but he didn't care. The guy said that this monster was too fast, so they couldn't escape. Kevin only cried that they would be eaten, and he was still too young. Here, the main character asked the tyrant to stop moving. Kevin shouted that if they didn't move, they'd get eaten faster, but Tyler silenced him and didn't move either. He assumed that since this monster doesn't have eyes or ears, it tracks its targets using vibrations. Kevin couldn't help him because he didn't even read the Book of Monsters. Tyler turned out to be right. If they don't move, the worm will lose them. But if things continue like this, they won't be able to pass the exam. Kevin, in his opinion, had a great idea. Taking out a piece of meat, he threw it to distract the monster. But Tyler warned him not to move. When Kevin moved, the worm immediately noticed him. Unable to keep his balance, the guy fell from the tyrant and flew down. The blonde, lying on the sand and looking at the monster approaching him, asked for help. Worried about his friend, Tyler gave Tyrant a signal. The ogre immediately attacked the hellworm so that Kevin could get up and run away from here. Sitting on his shoulder, Tyler loomed for the monster to pay attention to him. Kevin prayed that his friend would survive. Otherwise, he would not be able to repay him for everything. Fleeing away from the worm, Tyler shouted for the tyrant to run in the same direction, and he was thrown aside. On command, the ogre threw his master in the other direction. Tyler began to watch the tyrant running from the worm. The guy apologized to him for leaving one. He'll have to use the org as bait for the worm. The monster quickly began to wrap itself around the tyrant's body, causing him pain. But Tyler, as a tamer, will never give up his monster so easily. The tyrant, safe and sound, found himself behind his master. Now that they had deceived the worm, they had to go get the bun. Tyler called out to Kevin, but he didn't respond. Having not found the kolobok, the main character decided to move on, hoping that he would meet him near the mountain. On their way to the east, they had to face many dangers. The association's safe path turned out to be not so safe. Then Tyler realized it was too weird. But finally, they reached the Ridge of the Goddess. The guy told Bae that the tyrant's size was not suitable for mountaineering. Therefore, only the two of them will climb the mountain. Tyler connected himself and Bae with a thick rope, so the vampire climbed first, pulling his owner along with him. If it weren't for the giant's endurance, he would definitely not have survived this journey. Then Bae accidentally stumbled and Tyler flew down. Noticing what was happening in time, Bae grabbed the rope with his hand. Thus, Tyler was saved, and he already thought that he was finished. To prevent this from happening again, the vampire put the main character on his back, which made the guy blush. He asked Bae to let him go because he could climb himself. Besides, he still has masculine pride. It was already too late, so Tyler suggested that Bae stop here. They still had some meat left, which was prepared by the bun, for which the guy was still worried. Tyler didn't want Kevin to die because he really wanted to try his cooking. Turning to Bae, the guy asked why he wasn't eating, but the vampire suddenly rushed down. He immediately returned back, holding a small furry animal in his hands. Tyler recognized it as a snow beast. He heard that these are very cute and harmless creatures. They are rare, so their price is equal to copper equipment. Turning to the animal, the guy suggested that it came from afar because it was hungry or because it smelled meat. Taking pity on the snowy beast, Tyler gave it a taste of meat. The guy told Bae not to worry because this animal is harmless. Now it became clear to him why all the girls are delighted with them. But of course, this fluffy ball eats a lot. When Tyler had no more food left, he sent the creature back home. But then the fluffy guy pulled the guy's trouser leg. Bae was already preparing to attack, but the main character stopped him, saying that it looked like the animal wanted to take him somewhere. The snowy beast nodded his head vigorously, agreeing with the guy. They had nothing to do anyway, so the two of them followed the animal. Fluffy suddenly jumped onto the ice. Tyler shouted to him to be careful, otherwise he could get hurt. But instead of hitting the ice, the animal went through it. Tyler was very surprised that the animal went through the ice. After touching something, the guy suggested that it looked like a wall of ice, but this was an illusion, and there was something on the other side. The main character invited Bae to come in and see what was inside. After going through the illusion, Tyler felt as if he had plunged into a cold pool. Before the guy could enter, he was blinded by a bright light. Opening his eyes, he discovered that he was in some place unknown to him. When he wanted to turn to Bae, he saw that he was not nearby. Someone's voice was heard saying that he would not be able to pass. Only people with permission could enter, because there was no place for monsters here. Seeing the animal, Tyler asked if he said that, to which the Fluffy responded positively. The guy found it strange that his voice didn't match his appearance. After these words, the animal began to transform into something huge. He allowed Tyler to see his true form. The guy immediately realized that Yeti was standing in front of him. Yetis are ice attribute monsters. They are even stronger than superior level monsters. If he wants, he can easily kill the main character. Noticing that the guy was scared of him, he hastened to calm him down, saying that he was not going to harm him. Yeti brought a man here to ask for help. Tyler didn't expect such a strong monster to ask him for help, but he immediately asked what help was required from him. Having sat the guy on his paw, Yeti invited him to go with him. But first he had a story to tell, so he told Tyler to listen carefully. The guy replied that he had no other choice. A long time ago, when the monster was still a child, he had an owner. She was the kindest creature in the whole world, and all his memories from that time are connected with her. Tyler could not imagine that he could have an owner. The monster replied that she was not human, but he realized this only after he began to evolve. She loved people, loved to interact with them, and often hid her identity to join them. And so she often left this mountain, although Yeti was lonely, but he could handle it as long as she was happy. Subsequently, she fell in love with a man, an ordinary mortal. She was ready to give everything for him, and from that day, he never saw her again. Until one day she finally returned to the snowy mountain. Yeti was so happy that he immediately rushed to his owner, until he saw that she would soon be gone. When that man found out that she was not a human, he gathered a group of hunters to kill her. During the battle, he was wounded and almost died. To save her beloved, she tore out her own heart. That man survived, but she could only wait for her own death. After listening to the story, Tyler said that the beginning was so good and the end was sad, but he was wondering what happened next. Yeti replied that he listened to the last order of the mistress and then plunged her deep into that icy lake. And since then, this mountain has remained imprisoned in ice. Tyler didn't understand, since his owner was dead, what Yeti needed from him. The monster replied that she said that one day a chosen one would come here who could melt this lake, and then she would return to life, and the ice on this mountain would melt. Tyler thought that he was the chosen one, but Yeti said that there were 3 people here before him, and they all failed. The guy suggested that he was just randomly bringing anyone who climbs this mountain. But the monster said that he chooses only people with a good heart. Several thousand years have passed, and Tyler is only the 4th to enter here. The guy decided to find out what was required of him. Yeti replied that Tyler just needs to drop a drop of his blood. Whether he succeeds or not, he will be able to leave if he fails. The monster will erase the young man's memory of his stay here. Since this is the case, the main character decided to try to help him. A girl betrayed by people, he hoped that he could help her. A drop of blood fell with a ringing sound onto the surface of the ice. Nothing happened, so they decided to wait. But even after an hour, still nothing happened. The guy apologized for not being able to help Yeti. But then the ice began to crack, and the lake began to melt. And all the plants returned to life after thousands of years. Tyler didn't think there were that many nutrients in his blood. Yeti was very happy about the long-awaited return of his owner. The girl was so beautiful and divine that Tyler stared at her, blushing. She greeted the Ice King and thanked him for protecting her all this time. Yeti replied to the mistress that it was his duty, so there was no need for thanks. Looking at the chosen one, the girl thanked him too, asking him to call her Misselina Lumi. Tyler replied, "No problem," and introduced himself in return. It might have been rude, but he decided to ask if she was a monster or not. Misselina replied that she was from the divine race. The guy suggested that it was similar to the monster that opened the 3,000 eyes of the abyss 800 years ago. The girl realized that the guy was talking about that self-proclaimed god. But even though he could be called strong, he was not from the divine race. He was given only a small part of the divine powers. Tyler didn't really believe this girl's stories. The goddess noticed this and said that the power of the gods is beyond the understanding of people. Therefore, Misselina invited the guy to demonstrate his strength. Tyler had this strange feeling that his cracked wheel of life was now completely restored. The goddess said that for a long time the wheel of life interfered with him. So, as a reward, she healed him. The guy was shocked by the power of the gods. But that was not all she could give Tyler for her salvation. She will give him something else as a reward. Then the guy received a system notification about the detection of a divine presence, entering a state of ethereal perception. And the Great Devastation skill card has been upgraded to epic rank. Tyler was very happy with such a cool gift. Misselina said that the main character is very unusual for a mere mortal, as expected from the divine race. She sees right through him. No wonder Lucky was afraid to stick his head out. The girl suggested that Yeti send this gentleman back, but she promised that they would try to help Tyler in the future. But he replied that that was enough for him. After the main character leaves there, they will also leave this place. The guy asked where they would go. The goddess replied that they would return back to their world. The guy thought that in this case they would not see each other again. The girl asked Tyler to be careful on this mountain. If he decides to stay longer, he will meet a bunch of monsters. But it was really strange. The hunter exam should be easier, but he had already encountered so many dangerous monsters. Misselina said that she felt the aura of a monster that had reached the rank of superiority, and it seemed that he had a skill that made the surrounding monsters hunt for him. So the guy needed to leave the mountain as soon as possible. Now Tyler finally understood why so many monsters got in his way. The girl hoped that they would meet again, and the guy asked her to take care of herself. The barrier was still as cold, and moreover it was already morning. Seeing Bae, Tyler apologized to him for waiting there all night. He said that something happened to him on the other side, but it doesn't matter because they need to move on. He is full of strength and ready to continue the journey. After his life wheel was restored, the guy became stronger, and he was wondering how strong he would become after moving to the iron rank. Finally, the guys reached the top of the mountain and are just in time for the end of the exam. Then a strange sound was heard which made them tense. But a flock of geese came out from behind the hill and Tyler was surprised that they lived here. Seeing Bai's tension, the main character said that they may look menacing, but they are so tasty, so you can catch a couple. Then Tyler noticed that something was wrong with them. He was right. In a second, there were not geese in front of them, but real monsters. But they were too big. So Tyler shouted to Bae that they needed to run away from here. The vampire pulled the owner by the rope, and the main character shot the monsters, but there were too many of them, so they needed to hide somewhere. Bai spotted a cave into which he quickly dragged Tyler. Now they just had to wait here until they left. Then the guy noticed that something strange was happening to the monsters. They ran away in fear from the huge blue bird. With fear, Tyler said that this is a black raven and he is at the peak of his transition to the copper rank. But her appearance was to his advantage, because at least these geese would fall off and they would be able to move on. The raven landed directly opposite the cave, looking murderously at the guys. Tyler realized that things were really bad for them, but he did not understand why this bird was attacking them, because they had done nothing to it. Bai was about to rush into battle, but Tyler left him, saying that he was no match for the copper rank. The guy almost passed this exam, so he asked Bai not to interfere with him. He fired a bullet straight into the crow's chest, but it bounced off without hitting the bird. The guy was shocked that the bullet did not leave a scratch on the raven's body. Could this really be the end for him this time? The raven continued to break through with all his might into the cave. Tyler told Bai that he had an idea and that the vampire should wait for his signal. When the bird stuck its head into the cave, the guy gave a signal. With Bai's help, the main character rushed straight to the raven. Even if this bird has a super strong body, there must still be weak spots. Pointing the muzzle of the gun close to the raven's eye, Tyler fired. The raven slid and flew down. The guy used the last of his bullets on him. He killed a monster that was several times stronger than him. But he still was not given a promotion card, but he only received a fragment of the monster card. A black raven. The card was removed because the killed raven was of a higher rank. The guy regretted that he had so few cards, otherwise he would have easily raised the rank of Bai and Tyrant to legendary. Lucky, who appeared out of nowhere, explained that promotion cards are given by chance. That time Tyler was just lucky with 2 cards. Besides, the strength of the summoned monsters depends on the owner. If the owner is weak, then the strength of the monsters will be limited, and no matter what their rank. The guy came across a doubling card, with which for 1 hour he will receive a double reward for all killed monsters. Lucky said that if he finds suitable monsters, he can use this card to get a bunch of fragments. But still, Tyler's bad luck never ceased to surprise him. The guy was in no mood to talk, so he asked the assistant to leave. It's been a long time, so they need to hurry up and get to the top as soon as possible. And after completing the exam, you will need to buy more bullets, especially armored ones. A bunch of obstacles took them too long, but they finally reached the top. Suddenly, someone said that this is why weaklings should have given up from the very beginning. There was a guy standing not far from them, but neither Tyler nor the Bai felt his presence. The guy said not to be so surprised because he is a participant like everyone else. He immediately asked the question whether Tyler killed his black raven. The main character did not understand why he attacked them, since this guy is also a tamer. The boy replied that he released the raven so that it could find food for itself, but they were simply unlucky. But he won't just forgive Tyler for killing his black raven. Therefore, he will remember the action of the main character and take revenge. The boy had a blood eagle of copper rank, which means they are not in a very advantageous position, so they urgently need to come up with something. Climbing onto the raven, the stranger said that he was not going to take revenge right now. Tyler's vampire is very good, but he himself is still very weak. As he flew away, the boy shouted that we could talk when the main character came down from the mountain. The guy was furious that this kid was so arrogant, he even wanted to take him back and fight. But then Tyler realized that he needed to figure out how to get down from here. Bai's wings are not designed for flight, but they can be used in other ways. Tyler always wanted to try this. He never thought that his dream would come true in another world. Now he understands why people have always strived to learn to fly, because it is so fascinating. But it looked like Tyler's fun was over as they were approaching Area 7D121. Frida met the guys. She didn't think that the guy would arrive first. The girl congratulated him on passing the exam, and a little later he would be able to register as a hunter. Tyler didn't think he'd be the first to arrive. After all, that arrogant guy who looks like everyone owes him money should have arrived before him. The guy clarified that he also had a bloody eagle. The girl understood that he meant Hunter Killian, but he doesn't count. Tyler wasn't quite sure whether he was taking the exam or not. Frida replied that he was a participant, just very different from the others. He was special, so he did not need to take the exam. But he insisted on passing it like everyone else, so he could immediately become a copper hunter. The life crystals that Misselina gave the guy managed to sell for more than 3 million. Now he can call himself rich. Frida warned him that after completing the exam, registration would take some time, so Tyler would have to stay here for a couple of days. The guy decided that he would spend this time replenishing ammunition and farming monsters. At the gun shop, the seller said that he doesn't sell bullets for the Dark Eagle. It's rare to meet owners of these weapons, so he doesn't order them. But Tyler can go to Old Man Floral, even if he doesn't have them. That means that no one has them. 7D121 is much larger than Tyler's area, but no one sells rare equipment. It looks like he will have to find this floral. The guy spent so much time finding this shop, its owner must be quite unusual. Entering the store, the main character said that he had come to buy something. The old man told him to choose what he wanted, and then came up to him and he would name the price. There are equipment from iron to gold rank here. The price is high, but there are also a lot of weapons from limited versions, This old man is clearly not so simple. Tyler said that he needed armor-piercing bullets for the Dark Eagle 17. He hoped that at least there would be some here. Floral immediately asked how much he needed. The young man replied that he needed 3,000 regular and 300 armor-piercing bullets. The old man was surprised that the guy decided to buy so many bullets. The total amount is 165,000 credits, the old man said. Floral said that if Tyler had enough money, he could even get the relic. The guy thanked the old man and said that if he needed anything, he would definitely come here. He never thought that he would meet such a person here. Then a loud sound was heard. The old man explained that this was an alarm. It seemed like something had happened.